Okay, so in this video we're going to look at how we can work with API endpoints. So an API is something that just sends data back. So we're not building any HTML or anything, we just want to send back an object. And to do this, so far we've been working in the source/app directory here. And all of our project files are inside here. But we now want to create another folder inside the source folder here. So you want to make sure you right click on source here and not app. And you want to select new folder here, and we're going to call this pages, and inside of the pages folder we're going to create a new folder again, and we're going to call this API. Okay, so now we can create our file inside of the API folder here, and I'm going to call it hello.tsx. Now you can name this whatever you want, and it should end in .tsx. Unless you're using JavaScript, then it should end in .jsx. So now we just want to import two things at the top here. I'm going to do import, and we're going to do next API and then request. Now when I imported this, notice that it's next API request. You could make a mistake here and accidentally import next request, and this is something completely different. So you want next API request, and it's from next here. And we also want next API response, so I'm going to put a comma there and type next API response. And now that we have both of these, we can define our function here. So I'm going to do export default function, and I'll just call this function hello. Now this takes two parameters. So the first is going to be rec, and the type of this is going to be next API request. So rec is short for request, and then the second parameter here is going to be res or response, and that's going to be of type next API response. So okay, we have a function here. It takes two parameters. One is the request that's coming in, and one is the response that we're sending back. If you've gone through my Node videos, you should understand how this works. So we're just going to put in our curly brackets here, and now we can send back some data. So this is just going to be a simple API. We're just going to send back a small JSON response. So we're going to say res.status, and status is how we send back a status. So for example, we can say connection refused, or 404 not found, or something like that. So we're just going to send a response code of 200, which means everything is okay, they've connected successfully. And we're going to do dot, and we're going to say JSON here. So using this .json, we're sending back a JSON object. So this is a function, and as a parameter it takes an object. So we need our curly brackets there, and I'll just make a simple object here. It's going to be name, and for a name we're just going to say Theo, and then we'll put a comma here and we'll add in something else. We'll say like color, and this is going to be blue. So okay, once we have our function set up here, we can now go to the URL of our web page /API and then /hello. Now I'm just going to check if that's still open here, so I can hit Control and click on this, and let's head to that page. So it's /API /hello. Okay, so I've just gone to the page here, and if you notice, we're getting a 404 page not found. So the reason why this is because we're using something called Turbo Pack, which means we can make changes in our code and it will update automatically here. But if we create a new folder in the source directory like this pages folder, it's not able to handle that. So this is not indexed right now. So to fix that, we need to close the server and rerun it. So I'm going to do npm run dev here. And okay, now that it's restarted, I can head back to the browser, and if I refresh now, we can now see the API response here. So yeah, this is basically how you would send an API response. I'll go over that one more time. We need to import next API request and next API response, and it comes from the package called next. Now when you do this, you don't want to accidentally type next request and next response. Make sure you have the word API in there as well, or you'll accidentally import the wrong thing. Then we just define our function the same way we define any other page. It's just export default function and the name of the function. And this takes a rec and a res as parameters. And they are of type next API request and next API response. And then we use the response parameter that we took here to send back a response to the browser or to whatever made that API call. So we also have access to rec.method here, which will return get if the user made a get request, or post if the user made a post request. So we can use this with an if statement to filter it out depending on what requests we want to accept. Maybe for this example we only want to send back data if the user made a get request, but if they made like a post request we don't want to send anything back. So yeah, you can use this to filter based on what the request was. And yeah, this has been how you create APIs in Next.js. Again, you need to make the pages folder, the API folder, and then put your APIs inside of there. And once you're done making it, you need to restart your server here. It won't pick up your new files. And yeah, that's all I have to show you in this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video.